The Finn is the veteran boat of the Olympics after its debut in 1952, but there's added pressure on the sailors to perform in Tokyo, as the class won't be at the Paris 2024 Games. And Corky, by contrast to the 470 that we've just been watching, you've got to be big and strong to sail this boat.
Well, this is the heavyweight class. These are the real powerhouses of the sailing world in that sense. A very technical boat, very physical boat, certainly when the Oscar flag's up and the pumping rule sits in play. But again, so many greats have come through this class, and it's an iconic class. And so it's a real shame to see that it's not going to continue through. But for these sailors now, this is, as you say, their last opportunity to make it to the Games. And so this is going to, if not just intensify the training and intensify what they've got to do.
OK, well, it's really close on the leaderboard. We'll have a look at that in a moment. But let's meet the guy at the top, who is from Sweden.
I think you have to approach this race like I've approached all other races this week, that you need a solid result in the top, and then the ships may fall where they may.
Hugely experienced, but we saw him miss out on gold at the World Championships last summer. He has start of a new season. There he is, looking around. We've got 4 minutes to the start, but unlikely to see a match race between him and second place, Jonathan Loubert.
You know, I've been many times on the podium on the World Cups. I never won any of them. So, of course, I will try to push to get the top spot this time. But the condition will be tricky, so everything can happen.
Also hugely experienced with an Olympic medal to his name, Jonathan Loubert is a mainstay of the Hempel World Cup Series, and you've got to think that he'll come out on the attack, don't you? 4 points between him and the leader, Max Salminen. So how do you think they're going to race this?
Well, again, the points are just so tight, considering the top 7 can win gold, the top 8 can win silver, the top 9 bronze. Well, there's only 10 boats in the whole fleet in this medal race, so it's got to be seen as any other race. You've got to go out, you've got to win the race, and you've got to pretty much let anything else unfold. No battle can kind of commence, but it is, pressure's firmly on, because this will shape the medals.
Given what we were saying about them being big and strong in these light winds, we're going to have a pretty slow race, I'd say.
Well, again, they're still a very physical boat. They're a heavy boat, but once they got the momentum and the speed, still very technical as well. So again, the use of body movement within the boat is critical to keep that boat up to speed, from using the boat to use the steering. So it's a big physical boat. They are a slower boat, so it is certainly not going to be rocket speed round this race course, but still makes, if not because the slower the type of boat, the more technical and the tighter the racing should be.
Well, let's take a look at the course.
Yeah, zooming in here from Biscayne Bay, we'll do another windward-leeward course with a spread mark and a gate that you could choose at the bottom, and then we'll do that again with a short leg reach towards the finish.
So we've heard the 2-minute hooter, the 2-minute flag is up, and they are counting them down to the start of this race. Salminen and Loubert, the first and second placed, but 7 could win gold. That's how close it is, but with just a 4-point lead, there's little breathing space for Max Salminen. How are the conditions looking on that start line?
Well, actually, the wind is down a couple of knots. We've seen 8 to 9 knots for the 470, but at the moment it's 5 to 6 for the Finn, so a little bit less. And it was also quite some light left shift, actually. It was 150, now 135, so a little bit different again.
So there is the leaderboard going into this race. As you see, not much of a lead for the Swede. Luke Muller in third place, Niels Thunink of Switzerland in fourth, and then come the 2 Finns in fifth and in sixth.
Well, now it starts to really intensify. That is into that final minute. We can see the cluster of boats. Few trying to jostle for position right alongside the committee boat. It does still have a slight port advantage on this, but with the wind moving back round towards the right, it's starting to make this committee boat end slight bias. This is where we're seeing these cluster of boats moving up towards this right-hand side. We have also seen those boats wanting to take that first shift and get out towards that right. So whether we'll see that repeat again as Max Salminen takes that tack in the middle section of the racecourse.
8 races completed this week in Miami for the Finns as they're counted down to 0. The boat at the far end of the line is over early already, so there's going to be trouble for him, and the rest of the fleet head off as they get this medal race in the Finn class underway in Miami. Max Salminen is the man to catch, the man from Sweden. And there he is. We're on board with the overall leader. I'm being told it was all clear.
Yeah, an all clear start as they've plugged away, all sticking to that starboard tack. A couple of boats now starting to peel off and break to the right. We can see in the background there the Finnish boat taking that port tack, but a little way back. So these lead boats coming away from this port side of the course. We have Max Salminen just 3-4 boats up from that pin end. Jonathan Lobert about 2 off from that pin end as well. So they're just keeping an eye on each other, but a great start from most of the boats. So this is all about speed, holding their lane. And that's a great shot there where it identifies the whole course. Jonathan Lobert just squeezing out a little bit of forward momentum and bow forward on the boats just to windward of him.
Yeah, they definitely had a good start at the pin end, but if we look at the analytics and definitely at the wind, there's quite a big shift towards the right, and it's actually Luke Muller from the USA that started towards the committee boat. That's actually in a good position right now. Anything can change, of course, but I think at the moment it's the right-hand side that's gaining a little bit of ground.
Now, mathematically, there's only one sailor in this race who can't win a medal, Andrei Teply, who starts in 10th place for the Czech Republic. Mathematically, and I know some of them it's unlikely, but in these conditions you never know, everyone else in the fleet could potentially win a medal. The top 4 overall highlighted in orange on the mini-map in the bottom left corner as we watch Luke Muller of the USA making his way up this first leg.
Yeah, so Piotr Kula and Luke Muller, both of them are positions the furthest to the right, and at the moment definitely having a little bit more wind. They're going a little bit faster than the others also, and definitely the right-hand side is paying off at the moment.
And interesting, Max Salminen taking that tack back towards getting towards that right-hand side, looking to try and get it, but certainly onto some little bit of a shift as they come across.
I think we've just had a bit of a flyover. I'm presuming that's the US Air Force.
So interesting here to see Max Salminen taking that tack back up on this right-hand side. So now one of the furthest boats towards that right-hand side. A little bit of a right shift kicking back in again, so it's going to favour this starboard tack. But seeing him bump out a little bit earlier, it's put him in a bit more of a risky situation. Boats, Jonathan Lobert, you can see on that far left-hand side, he stayed on that starboard tack all the way back. Now taking that tack and got to come back towards that mid part of the fleet. But certainly with how the breeze sits in this slight right-hand phase, it is going to favour these boats coming in on starboard tack.
So Luke Muller of the USA, who started the day 3rd overall, is now pushing for the lead in this medal race. pushing to improve his medal colour.
Again, great shot, just showing how much the movement in the boat, the amount of trim on that main sheet, mainsail, just squeezing it on when that breeze comes back in, but the movement with the body in and out of the boat, just trying to maximise every bit of speed and keep the boat driving through what we can see quite a short but small sort of chop, but it's enough to certainly stop the boat if you get that trim wrong. They're right in the bottom picture here. Max Elman just coming in and trying to hold on to this right hand side, but they're all now starting to run out of a little bit of space and getting bumped over towards this right hand side. You can see the Polish sailor just sat up to windward. The medal colours on that leaderboard jumping around non-stop because of how tight the points are.
So early in this race at the moment, we're just waiting for things to establish themselves out on the race course. But if the 470 races are anything to go by, it could come down to the very last turn. The last few meters of the race may decide it.
Yes,
the points are close and the boats are close. Who will blink first?
Yeah, so as you can see, the distance between the boats are really small, and we can see it shifting left to right the whole time. Oh, we can see a penalty turn here by Luke Muller.
Luke Muller, who was doing so well, leading this race on the first leg, and he's picked up a penalty. Double penalty. Well, we'll dig around in the analytics to try and see what happened there. I'll let you know as soon as we find out. But here is Max Salminen, out in front, where he wants to be.
Yeah, and at the moment the wind is definitely in the right corner. We can see 165. It's the furthest we've seen today. So Max Salminen definitely in a leading position at the moment here, at the bottom of the screen.
And that's it, the tricky bit for him, and this is where it's going to rely on this right-hand shift to stay good and the breeze stay, is this tack up on the ley line, because all the boats approaching, if he doesn't clear in front of them, they'll all be looking to tack. So this is the first cross, so he has cleared the Swiss boat here as he comes in from that right-hand side.
So as the boats converge, we'll have a good idea of how things really stand at the end of leg one. The Finn coming in from the top of the shot at the moment is being given the advantage by the data in the left corner.
And definitely a little bit more pressure on the right side. We can see here Swiss turning also going a little bit faster than the other ones that are more to the left.
So now it's all about bringing themselves back in towards that midsection of the race course to give them the opportunities to tuck into either the left and the right hand shifts available at the top part of this course. Max Salminen working his way back up into fleet, taking that tack back out, so wants to stay on this right side, taking that tack just there. We see the Finnish boat, Oscar Mullion on, just tacking back out towards that left-hand side. They say they both came in towards each other and then bounced back on to the size they wanted. A lot of tacks coming into play now as they both tack and come back towards each other again. it is advantage. Bit of Finn tacking straight in front of Max Elmanen there, and they're forcing the attack back out again. So aggressive manoeuvres, all trying to gain their right position as they come into this windward mark, wanting that lead round that first mark.
No sign in the top 6 of Jonathan Lobert yet. He started the day second, in second place. Obviously the closest challenger to Max Elmanen, who heads towards that top mark, just behind Oskari Muhonen. The first 3 boats in this race contesting those 3 medals. Salmon is round. 9 nations represented in this race. Here comes the Swiss, Niels Tuning.
I think Peterson just touched the mark there and is doing a penalty turn.
And Jonathan Lobert coming in 4th place. Still in the hunt for a medal. Is that Pedersen coming in last?
No, I think it's Luke Muller who's coming in last. He had to do those penalty turns and because of that dropped all the way back, unfortunately. And I think there's
a penalty for Andrei Teply from the Czech Republic.
Yeah, I couldn't really see if it was a penalty or if he touched the mark. I think they're still experiencing some tide and it's quite difficult to pass the marks.
And I'm not sure exactly what the wind conditions are. I know you can check it there, but you know, we said it's a slower boat than the 470, a much heavier boat. Well, they're doing 2 knots less than the 470s were, what, 15 minutes ago.
Yeah, but there's also only 5 knots of wind
at the moment.
So
the wind's dropping as well.
Yes.
We saw a course shortening yesterday in one of the medal races when the wind dropped. I wonder if we're going to see that in this race. But there are our leaders as things stand. Max Salminen and Oskari Muhonen of Finland leading the medal race and leading overall. But Jonathan Lobert is putting on the chase. Started the day in 2nd place. You can see him there in the middle of the screen, trying to close that gap on the Swede.
Yeah, and the wind has shifted definitely a little bit towards the right-hand side. We're about 170 now. So that can explain why they're returning to the center or going a little bit more left than they were originally.
Yeah, when the conditions are like this, you can see the helmsman squeezed right down to that leeward side, keeping that boat moving as much as possible. And this is where it now becomes a complete speed race. It's all about the movement, all about the technique, trying to just keep every bit of power side by side. They can see each other. It's looking back over that shoulder, looking for any bit of breeze that they can sniff out and be able to access that little bit more breeze. You can see Max Elmanen just trying to soak a little bit lower, so taking that lower line down to try and close the distance between the Finnish boat, and he's got a nice bit of speed and a little bit of momentum over the top, so is coming bow forward at the moment.
Gently does it, isn't it, with your movements on board? Because the slightest mistake, if you just pull the sheet slightly too hard or not hard enough, will make a difference to your speed.
Yeah, definitely. And I think in these conditions, when it's so light, there's definitely a little bit of chop. They just don't want to get a penalty by the jury. We've seen how much that can cost you. And I think, yeah, they're just paying attention on sailing the boat as smooth as possible. And, you know, trying to make sure they don't make any mistakes and they don't do any movements that they're not allowed to make.
One of the many yacht clubs in the background there. They line the shore from Coconut Grove all the way up the coast. It's really part of the fabric of the community here.
Yeah, and the wind was 170 earlier on. I said that about 2 minutes ago, and is now down to 150. So a 20-degree wind shift to the left. And you can also see that the conditions are really starting to get light, 4 to 5 knots. So very, very tricky racing.
I can assure you they are moving.
A little bit. Slowly but surely.
Well, again, this is where it's going to become really tricky for these lead boats. As the boats start to get squeezed into this gate mark, suddenly trying to keep that little bit of clearer air, finding a clearer lane becomes a lot trickier. So we can see still these two boats sitting side by side, constantly jibing backwards and forwards, but the rest of the fleet are breathing down on them. You can see how tight in behind them these boats are. So the fleet spread across from right to left on this course, but as they come down towards this gate, it's obviously going to get squeezed. It's a matter of positioning and keeping that boat speed on all the way. But Jonathan Loubert doing a great job with trying to pull himself back through the fleet, identified as the orange boat in the mini map on the far left hand side, so the highlighted boat on that left side.
You can see how close it is in the bottom left corner there between gold and silver at the moment. There they are, side by side, the Finn and the Swede. And Jonathan Loubert working his way up the fleet further back, sitting round about 5th, which will be enough to secure him a bronze.
But this Oskari Mohona, he's doing really well. He's a really young guy, only 22, former laser sailor, and only just in the Finn, I think maybe 2 years, and really sailing a great race here, going very quickly also downwind.
So again, this is where the concentration comes in, and being able to keep your focus all the way down. You can see that crouch, squatted position. You're having to hold that, feel what the rig's trying to tell you through that main sheet. They'll take it in that slight cluster from that block and be able to get more feel from the main sheet. But those small movements, again, these guys are used to being able to sail in 20 knots and keeping the boat flat. This is where being soft on the feet and smooth movements.
And Tom Ramshaw definitely making some gains in that downwind, coming from the left side, looking downwind. Something that we've seen now in all 3 races.
Tom Ramshaw of Canada, now challenging for a medal himself, a former laser sailor, as many of them were. It seems to be quite a movement, doesn't there, from laser into Finn.
Yeah, definitely.
Why is that?
Yeah.
It's a fairly natural progression for a lot of laser sailors, sort of depending on your build. Then a lot of laser sailors, some are trying to keep their weight to a lighter category for the laser, when actually their body wants to naturally sit slightly higher at a sort of a mid-80s. And so with that, it's going into something like a slightly bigger class, and that requires that weight to be there. Then it enables them to push forward. So it's a big balance of deciding on where you want to be. Fitness requirements similar to the laser, if not a little bit more, obviously carrying a bit more weight and power. And so the natural transition for a lot of laser sailors is, right, now I've been balancing my weight for the last so many years. I'm going to go and enjoy myself, eat, get bigger and put the weight on, and still continue to force some great racing in the fin class.
So the course has been shortened. We thought that might happen. But we're talking about the progression from the laser to the fin, and then after the fin, many of these guys, because they're so big and so strong, often progress into America's Cup teams.
Yeah, so going back to the race, we could see that there was quite a big left-hand shift, and actually it's Oskari Mohonen who took that right gate, and then now the wind is actually turning back towards the right side. So Oskari and also Tom and Max are actually doing really good, but we can see now that some of them are going back to the right, the Finnish and the Canadian, whilst Max Salminen from Sweden is continuing towards the left. So definitely seeing a difference in strategy here, where there are 5 going towards the left and 5 going towards the right. And I can see Luke Muller is back in the game. Some good news from our American friends here on shore. He was in a really difficult position in the back after his 2 penalty turns, but definitely climbing his way up again.
Terrific performance from Muller. 2 penalty turns, really struggled from the back of the fleet, has worked himself back into the top 5 and into the hunt for a medal. See Jonathan Lobert on the right-hand side of the screen.
Yeah, and the wind is definitely turning back towards the right at about 170 at the moment. So definitely some movements going on, a little bit more than what we've seen in the previous 2 races.
Mohonen has been spot on in this race, got out in front, and he has been challenging for or in the lead for much of it. Can he stay concentrated and focused for the rest of the race? Can he hold on to this lead? He started the day down in 6th. We told you this would be close.
And he's definitely defending this right-hand side. He's all the way out on the right.
Here's Luke Muller right in front of us, now into 4th.
Yeah, the wind is at 175 at the moment, so it keeps on turning right.
There is Muller, one of the youngsters of the US sailing team. He's another one who moved to the fin from the laser class. And he's been training and competing in the fin for 2 years, and showing that experience now and showing his guts and determination in working his way back up the fleet. Andre Tepley, we think, was another boat that picked up a penalty, and he's there sitting in 2nd.
Yeah, Andre Tepley also all the way on the right side. So at the moment, the boats that went to the right are definitely taking the advantage of the right-hand wind shift. Still at 175 at the moment. So that definitely explains why that group is gaining some ground on the packet to the left. You can see at the top of the screen, they don't have so much wind there in the left corner, and also a terrible wind shift against them.
The wind is changing, isn't it? And shifting and moving around.
Yeah, it's much less stable than what we've seen so far.
Evie here is looking at the wind data, and it's translated into a graph, and it is up and down, up and down, up and down. It's like the London Stock Exchange at the moment. So, our leader makes it to the top mark. Oskari Muhonen of Finland. Now, several boats coming in. Let's see who gets the advantage. Will it be Tom Ramshaw? Or will the Czech tack in front of him? No, he goes behind.
So just drawn on the screen there, the gate mark, that's where they're headed down. So still plenty of race course for them to head downwind to get to. And you can see this breeze dropping slightly lighter. So it's all going to come down to a bit of a speed race on this downwind leg. We'll see very much similar conditions as we did on that last downwind leg. Crouched body positions on...
Yeah, I was going to say, so how can they maximise what speed they've got?
So again, it's about how you get that boat set up. So getting that rig set up, minimizing the amount of movement that rig shakes. Of course, very difficult with the amount of movement on the water. Using your body to counteract that roll and movement within the boat. And so you'll see the helmsman grab hold of the main sheet. A bit of a replay, so we can see the protest flag going out of Max Salmonen's life jacket there. So that's a call for a protest, so where we can identify were penalties being handed out or not.
Yeah, and it's not a surprise that everybody's jibing at the spreader mark, because the wind is 175. It's 25 degrees more towards the right than at the start of this race, so that explains why all of them are now on port tack going down to that gate. And I don't expect much more changes in this last part of the race, actually.
No, it's looking reasonably stable, and you can see nearly a straight run through down towards that gate mark. So this is where it is going to come down to speed. It is going to come down to concentration, just keeping that movement on, not letting those errors slip in. So you can see the sail just pumping and creating that little bit of a fan. That's what they're just trying to do, minimize the amount of shake that's going in on the boat. Body weight nice and far forward and down to leeward, just trying to generate any drive and any momentum to continue that speed downwind.
Yeah, and with the wind so far in the right corner, it's almost like a deep reach that they're doing at the moment. So not much to play for when you're in the back at the moment.
No, unfortunately, if where you've gone round that top mark, it's now quite a griping sort of mark. As you go downwind, you're constantly looking for that overtaking maneuver. But when it becomes a bit more of a procession due to the wind in this position, it is a straight line speed drag race between them, but the opportunities to overtake suddenly minimize greatly.
Oskari Muhonen, just 21 years old, was 5th at the Youth Worlds last year. And he's continuing his progression here in Miami. We're missing some of the big names of the Finn class, aren't we?
Yeah, definitely. The British sailing team isn't here in the Finn, so we're missing Scott at right. The Dutch aren't here either. Pieter-Jan Postema, Nicholas Heiner. The New Zealanders, Andy Maloney and Just Jr. The Brazilian, George Zarif, is also not here. So definitely a couple of them haven't decided to come down to Miami, probably training somewhere else. I know that the Dutch were in New Zealand, probably training with the New Zealanders. So yeah, I think they're on a little bit of a different schedule than the others.
So what an opportunity for the youngsters, and we're seeing them take that opportunity. Muhonen in his early 20s, so is Luke Miller. Pushing ahead, their chance to shine, their chance to prove themselves to their team selectors as well. Show that they can challenge the experienced sailors in their team. So, what have you drawn for us?
So this is that final dogleg down towards the finish line, so where we've seen all the boats cluster down on this final mark number 4, and rounding that and getting into that position, and that final reach across to the finish. Of course, not going to be fast and furious across that reach today, but again, it is all about that positioning, all about setting up, looking behind. Have you got the breathing space? Is someone come straight on top? And finding and identifying that space.
As things stand, though, Max Salminen is holding on to the gold medal. Oskari Muhonen will take silver, and bronze at the moment will go to Luke Muller if things remain as they are. Our leader reaches the bottom gate. It's a left turn to the finish line now. Now, what's the distance between him and second place? There we go. Not that much in it, but in these conditions, it should be enough for the Finn to take the victory and the silver medal as well. Tom Ramshaw is round in second. And then comes Tepley of the Czech Republic. That's our overall leader coming down to the gate right now, Max Salminen of Sweden. And Luke Muller, well placed. Oskari Muhonen of Finland heading towards the finish line. Just the final few meters. There it is, the finish line, the last few meters, and Oskari Muhonen of Finland registers his first victory here in Miami. He started the day in 6th, and his victory means he will take the silver medal. Now, starting right behind him on the leaderboards this afternoon was Tom Ramshaw of Canada. He's also had a great race. His best position of the week so far in Miami, and Tom Ramshaw takes second. There's Luke Muller of the United States. And Max Salminen with the yellow bib right behind him. But Tepley crosses the line. Luke Muller crosses the line in 4th place, so he can celebrate. He's won himself the bronze medal. Max Salminen crosses the line, a thumbs up from him. He started the day top overall with a 4-point advantage, and he's held on to that lead to take the gold medal here in Miami. It was a slow, hard, tactical race, but the Swede did enough to take the gold. Well, we should mention a great performance from Luke Muller. He's managed 2 victories here in Miami. He's obviously enjoying the conditions, enjoying these home waters. And an early penalty saw him slip right to the back of the fleet. But to work your way back up in these conditions to 4th is really something.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we've seen that in all races today, that the ones that are in the back somehow switch on their 6th gear and end up winning a medal or going away with the title. So great race by Luke Muller. He was definitely not in a good situation after those 2 penalty turns, but nevertheless still a really good race. Looked for the opportunity, headed for that right side in the second upwind, and then was just right back into the game. So big congratulations for him.
We'll confirm the results in a moment. Be interesting to see where Jonathan Laubert of France finished in the end, because he started the day in 2nd. He was to be Salminen's nearest challenger, but it didn't prove to be that way. Right, well, I think Max Salminen can hear us now. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
That was a long, hard race, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
So tell us about it. Tell us, tactically, how what you were thinking.
I had an okay lane after the start, but then I saw the boats all to right of me started gaining. So I thought I wanted a piece of that. And then I think now in hindsight, the more you were to the right, the more you were gaining. Yeah, good boat speed. And then it was a really tricky downwind when the wind died out on us. And then at the gate it was congested again. And then I saw Jonathan go out to the left, and the left has been looking better, I think. But I think it's the sun that is spooking out a little bit. So you're looking straight at the sun when you're looking out to the right. So it looks like glass, but there's for sure something there. And they were going really good on the second upwind there on the right. But then I managed to cling on to Luke Muller, and I knew that he needed to put some boats in between. So I just were trailing him all the way down to the finish.
Okay, very well done. What's next for you?
Some training in Mallorca. And then setting up for the Europeans in Athens.
And great to see some youngsters coming through in the Finn class today.
Well, I was hoping not to, that they would come through. But yeah, for sure, it's just proving that the class is really healthy and there's a lot of talent to challenge us old guys.
Okay, Max, well done again. Thanks for talking to us.
Thank you.
Let's confirm the results of the men's Finn medal race. Max Salminen out on top then. Muhonen, what a performance from him. He won the medal race, moved himself up from 6th at the start of the day into silver. Luke Muller seals the bronze, and then Tom Ramshaw finished 4th, Neil Thuning in 5th, and Jonathan Laubert, who potentially could have won gold, finished at the back and 6th overall.